Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Hello, everyone. Today is June 22nd, 2022. This is the Kubernetes 6 cluster lifecycle cluster API office hours. We follow the CNCF code of conduct, which means basically be nice to everyone. If you wish to talk during any point of the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. It's under reactions in Zoom. And let me post a link to this talk in chat. And if you want access to this talk, please join the SIG cluster lifecycle mailing list, and you should be able to get edit access to this talk. And please feel free to add your names to the attending list, and let's get started. First, let's go through the open proposal readouts. Are there any updates on any of the proposals? Does anyone like to update anything? I don't see any hands. Okay. Oh, Richard, go ahead.
It's just a quick one on the managed Kubernetes in CAPI. So it's currently in a Google Doc. Going to work to resolve the open questions within the Google Doc and then move it to a PR this week.
Okay, that sounds good. So yeah, if anyone still has any questions or follow-up discussions, I think you can just continue them on the Google Doc or on the PR once it's out. Thank you, Richard. Any other points on any other proposals? Okay, great. Moving on to the discussion topics. Fabrizio, looks like you have the first one.
Yes, hello everyone. So this is a discussion while we are prepping up for 1.2. We currently have Cert Manager 172, and we were considering if there are objections to move to the latest Cert Manager, which is 181. It seems that there are no breaking changes, and considered also the fast pace at which a Cert Manager version goes in out of support. It could be a nice one. So if you have some opinion, please raise your hand or let us know.
Cool. Does anyone have any follow-up questions on that? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Thanks, Fabrizio. Next one. Yeah, I can take this up. So we now have a release 1.2 branch as of Monday, and we also got a beta tag for the 1.2 release. Since now we have the release 1.2 branch, we also have the test script set up for that, and I think it's now available. Yeah, it is. Two of those tests are currently failing, the 1.1 to 121 to 122 upgrade and the 124 to latest upgrade. I think for one of them, the fix is in progress already, and the other one, I think we're working on it. Are there any updates? Does anyone like to add anything on top of this? Or any questions? Okay, cool. Just one more point. I think the CAPI book for this is also up. For this particular release branch is also up. I just wanted to shout out that the certificate management for this time was pretty easy. Since we added those SANs last time, all we had to do was just go to Netlify and renew certificates, and everything worked out. So that's great progress. If there are no questions, let's move on to the next topic. Fabrizio, Christian.
I can take it. So before moving on, just a PSA. The error that we are seeing in the upgrade for 134 to latest is the same error about registry KSIO that I saw Jack adding a point below. So we will come back to this. Okay, moving on. So we, while investigating an issue that Maximilian reported, basically we discovered a problem in the upgrade. And this problem is due to a limitation in how CRD storage version chains are currently managed in Kubernetes. So the problem is quite complex, but it is a generic CRD problem. So it is not specific of Cluster API, Cluster Catalog, or Self Manager, but we detect it while upgrading Self Manager. The problem is that Kubernetes basically records in the CRD status all the storage version that existed. At a certain point, and for if you start with an older version of Self Manager, you get V1 Alpha 2, V1, etc., up to V1. When you install Self Manager 1.7 or 1.6, in fact, basically those releases drop the older version. And so API servers start complaining because in your spec, in your CRD spec, you have only V1, but in CRD status, you have also the old storage version. Long story short, Kubernetes documentation suggests a manual operation to fix up this condition. They also implemented a tool which we don't understand, a CRD migration tool, which we don't really understand the status of. Certain manager folks implemented their own solution by implementing a migration command in their own CLI. So we are exploring, we are starting to think how we can get this fixed or get a, let me say, a nice workaround in Cluster Catalog. But this is there is a deepest problem behind. We don't know if and when the API server folks will get to it. So what we are going to do in Cluster Catalog is only a workaround. Probably in the first, let me say, incarnation of this workaround, we will do a workaround only for Self Manager, but the problem can happen for every CRD. And in fact, the Metal Cube folks already hit the problem while removing one of their CRD. So probably in order to make our workaround a little bit more generic, this will require some iteration. So this is a problem that we discovered yesterday. We are still collecting information. If you look at the Slack thread, there is a lot of good discussion there. And yeah, if someone is interested or willing to help, this is a green field that we have to figure it out how to solve it. So everyone else is welcome.
Any questions, comments? No. Fabrizio, just to, does this mean once we get that fixed into Cluster Catalog, we'll have to backport it to the previous release series?
I think so. So it is not clear, but if you want, let me say, to avoid the problem for our users, as soon as we have a fix, we have to backport at least in the 1.1 series, which is where we started using Self Manager version that basically dropped the old storage version.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. If there are no follow-up questions, let's move on. Richard.
Hello. Yeah, I was going to do a quick demo of creating a cluster out of 2 different providers for a specific scenario.
Do you want to share screen? Shall I make you a co-host?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be good. It'll be a very quick demo.
Okay, you are co-host. You should be able to share screen.
All right, thank you. So hopefully everyone should be able to see my terminal. Is that right? Shout
Yes.
if, yeah, cool. So just on the left-hand side in the editor. So this is just a CAPI definition of cluster and the control plane only. Couple of things to note using the micro VM cluster. So the micro VM provider here, and the control plane is kubeadm with a micro VM provider as well for the nodes. So what this, I've already run this. So the 2 screens on the right hand side, the 2 instances of K9S. The top one is the management cluster, the bottom one is the tenant cluster. So I can see they've got the bring your own host provider in there and the cap MVM provider in here. If I look at the machines, you'll see that there is essentially one machine there, and that is the single control plane node. But the thing to note here is the provider ID. So it is using the micro VM, and it's on NUC 1. So I've got a couple of NUCs beside my desk here. So at the bottom there, you can see actually the tenant cluster. You can see that the node is actually ready. So what I want to do is, so this is a virtualized control plane node. So what I want to do is add a whole machine as a worker node to this virtualized control plane. So then we end up with this mixed mode cluster. So if we look at the machine deployments, so this is the machine deployment I'm going to add. Thing to note here is it's using the bring your own host machine template for it. So if I quit that, so I have pre-registered on the management host, bring your own host. So I pre-registered a physical machine, which is my NUC 2. So this is just a NUC that I have just installed Ubuntu on, nothing else. Installed the bring your own host agent on there and told it to register with the management cluster. So it has nothing else on it except for this agent. So if we now apply this machine deployment, so that is for the machine deployment, what this will do is it will use a bring your own host to provision that NUC as a worker node and join it to the existing cluster, hopefully. We shall see if it actually works. I did have a few issues with it earlier, but let's look back to the machines. So you can see it's actually provisioning the NUC now, hopefully. So hopefully in a minute or so, we will see the provider ID come up and you'll see that it's bring your own host on the NUC 1 and the node at the bottom here, turn, be ready. Hopefully. We shall see if it's actually, I did have a few demo issues earlier when I was running through this, something with Cert Manager going on, but so this should be pulling down the bundle on that physical machine and doing the install and provisioning. I can just check. Yeah, it's doing so. This is just showing an SSH screen onto the NUC, the bottom one. So it is actually provisioning, and so it's bootstrapping the Kubernetes node. So this is going to be a bit like watching the paint dry. It was quicker earlier. I think I could do with some music now. Does anyone have any questions while we just wait for this to finish? It's taken a long time. So it didn't take this long earlier.
I added a question in chat, Richard.
Yes, there were some networking issues. Well, networking assumptions, I guess, so that the host, the machine hosting the micro VMs has to be routable to the physical machines. And on the hosts hosting the micro VMs, we're using Mac VTAP. So they have their own network interface. But yeah, so there are some networking things. This shouldn't take this long. So I think something has gone wrong in true demo fashion. Seems to be stuck. 16. Yeah, maybe we cut to something else because it doesn't appear to be working. Yeah,
So
I
there's
will
another
stop
question.
sharing. Yeah. So not currently. So I still need to do a couple of PRs to the various providers, but it's all in forks currently. So I will write the demo script up as well and give the sample manifest as well, and work out why this has failed. Demos.
Thanks for that. Are there any questions, follow-ups? I don't see any hands raised. Jack, you have the next one.
Okay, hey everybody. This is going to be more like a PSA about, so some folks may be aware that in the last few weeks, the Kubernetes CI team has done a cutover for hosting container images from kates.gcr.io to registry.kates.io. Registry.kates.io spans cloud, so it's not a Google only infra thing, which solves some cost issues and allows more folks in the CNCF to sort of absorb some of the costs of running Kubernetes CI. Anyway, along with that change, tons of projects that have dependencies on kates.gcr.io have had to do various adaptations to use the new URI. Yeah, thank you for clicking on that link. As it pertains to CAPI, we folks have been busy investigating how CAPI and various providers need to adapt to this. And a change was made recently that removed some sort of hard-coded kubeadm foo that runs for custom Kubernetes builds. That foo was sort of statically implemented to pull from kates.gcr.io, and so it was identified as something that may need to be updated with the change. And in this PR that we're looking at, there's a bunch of discussion going on there, and eventually, is this the CapZ PR? I think this is actually, is that the CapZ? Sorry, which one was that? The first one or the second one?
That was the first. This is the CAPI PR, and this is the CapZ PR.
Okay, cool. So yeah, in the CAPI PR, I think there was just a general like audit of kates.gcr.io, and that foo was removed, which tested out fine. And shortly thereafter, what we found out when multi-control plane scenarios were tested using commits past this change, is that they were broken. And with a little investigation, it was clear that the download foo that's removed, if you go to the change set, you can see, we don't have to do a visual demo, but sort of long story short, we can't actually remove this foo entirely. There seems to be a difference between the way that kubeadm init will automatically tag Kubernetes release versions and do the correct sort of image downloading on behalf of the user, and kubeadm join, which is the distinction between the first control plane node, which tested out fine with these changes, and 3 or 5 or, et cetera, et cetera. And so I just wanted to do a PSA that I think we're going to revert this change. we have the second PR that you opened up there, Karthik, has we did something similar in CAPC, and this PR reverts that change and adds some additional foo that allows both pre 125 builds, which still use kates.gcr.io, and 125 and above, which use the new registry.kates.io to work. So we'll do something similar to CAPI, and I will take the ownership of getting in touch with the kubeadm maintainers and find out what's really going on to explain the difference between init and join. Because certainly from a sort of superficial level, it seems that there's a bug there somewhere that kubeadm init is doing what we think is the right thing and kubeadm join is not. So I'll file an issue, and you know, I'll CC the folks who are on that thread. So Fabricio, Stefan, et cetera, et cetera. So mainly just a PSA.
Thanks, Jack. Are there any follow-ups, questions, comments, concerns? Fabricio, go ahead.
No, just saying thanks to Jack for working on this. Yeah, it is on our to-do list, but we are still busy with post-release stuff, and yeah, we'll get there eventually. But it is nice to see that, to have some help.
Yes, and an excuse to be that annoying person to remind everybody, test with HA. Remember to test with HA. Always test with HA.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Fabricio. Are there any more questions, comments, concerns? Okay, if not, we'll move on to provide updates. Mike, the first one.
Yeah, so we merged a big feature for KubeMark just over the last couple of days, and I bring it up here because I think maybe Fabrizio had opened an issue at one point about this. So in the KubeMark machine infrastructure templates, you can now specify an external cluster kube config that you can use to put the hollow pods for any machines created like that. So previously in KubeMark, by default, all of the hollow pods that were created, and the hollow pods are essentially containers that emulate a kubelet or emulate a node. Those hollow pods would all be put on the control plane, whatever control plane you were using. But now you have the ability to specify where those pods go. So you could, you'll have to arrange the networking so that it works properly. But assuming that all that is set up, you could now have your hollow pods land on whatever cluster you would like them to. So anyways, just a quick update. I'm hoping we'll have a release come out in the next week or two, and we'll have a few more fixes in there. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Awesome, Mike. Thanks. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? I don't see any hands raised. We're at the end of our agenda and we have some time. So if there is anyone new to this meeting or who hasn't spoken before, if you want to say hi, feel free to raise your hand and you can unmute yourself and say hi. Aniruddha, I think you're trying to say hi, but we can't hear you. We still can't hear you. Is it just me, or are others also not able to hear you?
I also do not hear anything.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, that is a mic issue. So hi everyone, I am Aniruddha. I'm from India, got selected for LFX Summer and currently doing the CAPG GPU support work. And yep. That's it
Welcome.
from me.
Hi. Anyone else? I don't see any hands raised. That is all, folks. Have a great rest of the week. See you all next week. Bye.